The wind howled across the dusty plains of Willow Creek as the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting long shadows over the small wooden house that sat on the edge of town. Inside, Sarah Carter was tucking her little boy, Ethan, into bed. Life hadn't been kind to her. 3 years ago, she'd lost her husband in a mining accident, and since then, she'd worked day and night at the local diner to keep food on the table. The people of Willow Creek whispered about her strength, about how she faced each sunrise alone but never once let it break her spirit. But that night, her quiet world was about to change forever. The sound of hooves echoed through the dirt road outside, slow and heavy. Sarah froze, the soft light of the oil lamp flickering across her worried face. She knew who it was even before she looked through the window: Luke McAllister, the meanest cowboy in the county, known for his temper, his loneliness, and the rumors that followed him wherever he went. He had scars on his hands and shadows in his eyes that told of a past no one dared to ask about. He wasn't welcome anywhere, not in town, not in church, not in hearts. But tonight, he had come here. To her. Sarah opened the door just a crack, the night air cold against her face. "Please don't come inside," she said softly, her voice trembling but firm. Luke stood there, tall and rough, his worn-out hat shadowing his eyes. "I ain't here for trouble," he muttered, his voice low and gravelly. "The storm's getting worse. Just need a place to wait it out." She hesitated. Every instinct told her to shut the door, to protect her son from the men whose name made even the sheriff nervous. But there was something in his tone, something tired, something lonely. Against her better judgment, she nodded toward the porch. "You can stay out here," she said. "There's wood for the fire." He gave a short nod and sat down silently. Inside, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this night would not be like any other. Hours passed. The wind screamed outside, and rain began to fall hard against the roof. Sarah couldn't sleep. She peeked through the window and saw him still sitting there, soaked, staring into the darkness as if it held ghosts of his past. Something tugged at her heart. She poured him a cup of coffee and opened the door again. "Come in before you freeze to death," she whispered. He looked up, surprised. "You sure?" he asked. "Please don't make me say it twice," she said, her lips curving into the faintest smile. He stepped inside, water dripping from his coat, and the warmth of the room seemed to swallow the silence between them. Ethan stirred from his bed, curious, but Sarah shushed him softly and sent him back to sleep. Luke stood awkwardly, holding the coffee like he didn't know what to do with kindness anymore. They sat by the fire as the storm raged outside. "People say a lot about me," Luke said after a long silence. "None of it good." Sarah looked at him steadily. "People talk about everyone. It's what they do when they're unhappy." He gave a small, bitter laugh. "Guess they talk about you too." "A woman working alone in a town like this," she nodded slowly. "They do. But their words don't feed my boy." Something shifted in his eyes, respect, maybe even admiration. He hadn't expected her to meet his sharpness with steel of her own. For the first time in years, someone wasn't afraid of him. And for the first time, Sarah saw not the mean cowboy the town despised, but a man weighed down by his own regrets. As the night deepened, Luke told her bits of his story, how he'd lost his ranch in a fire, how his family turned their backs on him, how the whiskey had almost taken his life. "I was mean because it was easier than being broken," he confessed quietly. Sarah's heart ached for him. She knew that kind of pain, the kind that builds walls around a person's soul. Without thinking, she reached out and touched his hand. It was rough and cold, but it didn't pull away. For a long moment, they sat in silence, two wounded hearts finding warmth in each other's company. The storm passed by dawn, leaving the world washed clean. Luke stood by the door, his hat in his hands. "Thank you," he said. "You didn't have to let me in." Sarah smiled softly. "Maybe you needed someone to." He looked at her one last time, his eyes searching hers for something he couldn't name. "You ever need help fixing that fence out back," he said, "you know where to find me." And with that, he rode off into the morning mist. Weeks went by, and true to his word, Luke started showing up, quietly, without asking. He mended fences, chopped wood, and never asked for payment. The townsfolk gossiped, of course. "That cowboy will ruin her," they said. But Sarah ignored them. Because each time he came, Ethan laughed a little louder, and Sarah's heart felt a little lighter. The mean and lonely cowboy was changing, slowly, quietly, because of her kindness. One evening, when the sun painted the fields gold, Luke came to her door again. "Sarah," he said, his voice shaking slightly, "I ain't got much left to give, but if you'll have me, I'd like to try again. Be the man your boy can look up to." Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled. "You already are," she whispered. That night, as they watched the sunset together, Sarah realized that sometimes the people we're most afraid to let in are the ones sent to heal us. Luke had come to her door a broken man, and she had met him with courage and compassion. Together, they had rewritten both their stories, not with grand gestures, but with small acts of trust. Never judge a soul by its scars. Sometimes, love knocks at your door wearing a broken heart and a cowboy hat. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and bell icon. Your support helps us bring more powerful, emotional stories straight to you every week. Share this video to remind someone that love can heal even the deepest wounds.